In 1982, Eastside Domestic Violence Program started as an all-volunteer helpline, providing survivors in East and North King County, Washington, with support groups and emergency shelter.
It is probably a very logical one, but that is starting a nonprofit is, there's not a lot of books about how to do that. And 40 years ago, we in this community didn't really understand the depth of the problem of domestic violence here.
At LifeWire, we help individuals, children, and families impacted by domestic violence build safer and healthier lives by offering support, resources, and professional services.
Our question was very simple. What do the clients need? What do the survivors need? Do they need to go to school? Do they need a car to get to a job? What is it that really will get you to freedom and happiness and a life of your own? And we made it work.
Domestic violence is a human rights issue. LifeWire envisions a community in which every person lives in a safe environment, free from oppression, and with the opportunity to thrive.
Unlike many of our sister organizations, we did not start with a shelter program. We started with community services, crisis line, support groups.
LifeWire advocates partner with survivors on their individual journey to gain renewed strength and empowerment. We listen to survivors as they describe their needs and help them identify resources that will enable them to build safer, more stable lives. By tailoring our support to each survivor, we can respond to their unique barriers, challenges, and goals.
Working directly with survivors, being able to support them as they found that freedom, that safety, that place to heal, a safe place to live, at least temporarily, and being able to watch them as they gathered their resources, being able to help with some of those resources, and found their way back into the community.
The incredible creativity of our advocates. I loved the stories about when things would happen in the community or even in our world, and our advocates would just get creative and find ways to respond. When the pandemic started, our phone lines got very quiet, which was very frightening because we knew that so many survivors were stuck at home with abusive partners and it wasn't safe and they couldn't leave and no one could leave, and it was such a scary, scary time for survivors. And one of our advocates realized that it was also the time of the US Census, so she started calling her survivors and pretending to be a census worker. And that was how she was able to reach the survivors she'd been working with. And only after she had established that it was safe would she say who she really was and be able to talk to them and check in and see how they were doing.
Domestic violence is a leading cause of homelessness for women and children in the nation. We work with survivors to overcome challenges that prevent them from finding and maintaining safe and stable housing.
Working with advocates to really be present and to do the mobile advocacy that is so critical for survivors as they move from their emergency shelter, transitional housing, into the community to find resources.
Our housing initially was in volunteers' homes and sometimes in hotels. But after we had started our community advocacy program, we were in line to receive funding to be able to open our first confidential shelter.
In 1992, I was hired specifically in that year to open my sister's home. It was the first emergency shelter for domestic violence survivors on the East Side. There was a directive from King County that even Eastsiders needed a domestic violence program for survivors and shelter that could be there for them. Following that, I opened my friend's place, which for me was a labor of love in 1998. This program was specifically a transitional housing program for survivors who struggled with drug and alcohol use and abuse, who needed a safe place to be while they worked on their recovery issues and to get their kids back. Many of them had had kids removed. So realizing that that was a population that no one was serving in that period of time, there was this expectation that if you wanted to be somewhere, you had to be clean and sober for 3 to 6 months, but there was no place for that So many survivors return to abusers because they didn't have a place to be.
At LifeWire, we believe that no one should have to choose between staying in an abusive relationship or becoming homeless. Our Housing First programs prioritize getting or keeping survivors housed so they can improve their safety and pursue their personal goals.
We were able to make really incredible strides in our efforts to end domestic violence program. And I really learned that to make a difference, it has to be successful if you have very different groups of people, because they all bring different skills.
Thank you, LifeWire, for the work and the partnership. It was my pleasure to be a part of this and to be a part of this amazing community.
We give choices, hope, and opportunity to survivors that don't think they have that.
I want people to know that LifeWire continues to be very innovative and a leader within the sector of work that it's done, and it's a terrific organization to support.
LifeWire is visionary. It moves us beyond what we're doing now and provides that fertile ground.
We're just stars in working with survivors.
Your donation will change lives, providing compassionate services, safe housing, and hope to survivors, children, and families when they need it most. Your support gives survivors and their children the opportunity to build a safe and stable life. Thank you.